Defense Logistic Agency regarding the administrative consent order for defueling, closure, drinking water protection for the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility and Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam water system. My name is Beatrice Wong, most people call me B, and I am the facilitator for today's meeting. If you recognize me, it's because I've had facilitated other meetings related to this topic. I'm also from US EPA Region 9's Office of Regional Counsel. I'm one of the agency's regional judicial officers, and part of my job includes receiving public comments as well as facilitating public meetings. So with that said, thank you everyone for being here and for your participation today. Let's start the meeting with an Oli. I think Kalani usually, we all do. Oh, you all do.
So we do the Oli to help us to focus on what's important, which is the way, the water, why we're here as community representation initiative. Olai kaha, olai kawai, olai kai, Hawaii, Hawaii, Hawaii. Olai kaha, olai kawai, olai kai, Hawaii, Hawaii, Hawaii. Olai kaha, olai kawai, olai kai, Hawaii, Hawaii, Hawaii.
Thank you. Now we'll invite introductions from the elected members of CRI representatives, the U.S. Navy, Hawaii Department of Health, Defense Logistic Agency, and U.S. EPA. We'll hear from the representatives who are here at the table first, and then the ones who are participating online. And I'll do it by, I'll start with the CRI, and please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Aloha. Aloha, good evening. My name is Melody Aduha, and I represent the organization of the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party.
Aloha, my name is Marty Townsend, and I'm an at-large member.
Aloha, I'm Realisa Ores, and I represent the community at large.
Aloha, my name is Mai Hall, and I represent Native Hawaiian interests, and I'm an effective family member.
Aloha, I'm Helene Sonora Pale. I am the Native Hawaiian representation on this committee. Thank you.
Aloha, I'm Susan Gorman-Chang. I'm substituting for Ilima DaCosta and representing the community at large. Mahalo.
And then the CRI members who are online, can you please introduce yourself?
I am Michelle Poplar. I am an affected community member and at-large member.
Hello, I'm Bill South. I represent the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party.
Aloha, I'm Jamie Simic. I am subbing for Tara, and I represent affected family members.
I'd also like to note that Mandy Feind is a member of the CRI. She is a very effective member of the CRI, and she represents injured families.
Sorry, is she not able to come on she's part of the CRI committee?
Unfortunately, Mandy did not agree to the ground rules which were set forward, and each of you who are participating in the meeting agreed to, and so she won't be able to participate today.
I think that's not factually accurate. We actually have her on record, both at the December 2024 meeting, where she verbally assented to the ground rules, and then when there was questions about what her signature on the ground rules said, she affirmed via writing, via email to you and Amy and everyone else that she assented to the ground rules.
I would really, support her being on here tonight. I think it's important to have her voice and not to silence her.
Yeah, so I appreciate you guys standing up for your fellow CRI participant. You know, when we amended the order and to include the ground rules, one really important component was the meeting etiquette and really trying to build a cooperative, collaborative relationship between all of our organizations to be able to facilitate information for your fellow community members here in Hawaii. An important part of that was the meeting etiquette, which asked each of the participants, including CRI members, EPA, Navy, to conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner. When we asked Mandy to sign, she signed her name using an expletive. I won't say which one it is for kids watching at home, but it was certainly that. And it was a pretty firm, not only was it not her signature, it was a firm rejection of the ground rules themselves and the call that we were trying to make to bring a certain etiquette to the meeting. And for that reason, we are not moving forward a meeting with their participation. And I understand that's not, you want to support your fellow CRI member, but that's the decision of EPA and the facilitator role in this meeting.
So I actually like to challenge that because the AOC makes clear that the composition of the CRI is determined by the public. Mandy was elected as an original member back when this was first formed, and it shouldn't be that for community representation that the EPA or the Navy or anyone else decides, other than us, who represents us, even if we're feisty.
In addition, if I may, I would like to say that this is a summarily decision by the EPA, and it's one that did not go through any type of due process in which Mandy Fine was not available where she can defend what her signature was. So in that regard, that is an unfair tactic on the part of the EPA as well as the U.S. Navy.
There is also a silence to the last time, so I was wondering, is she going to be silenced forever?
So how we left it with her was that she could continue to be a member of the CRI. She's still listed on our website. And if she wanted to come back to us and discuss it, it's an opportunity. We haven't heard from her in the last 3 months. I let the co-chairs know 2 days ago that she would not be able to participate. I hadn't heard back until about 10 minutes before this meeting. And that is it for this meeting at least.
I'll just note that the Zoom crashed.
Thank you.
I do want to say that legally it doesn't matter what someone signs. Legally, when someone signs a document with an X, with a frowny face, with whatever, they say that's their signature, that's their signature. And there's nothing, I don't know, do you have a rule that you are going by, Jamie? Is there some standard by which we can assess? Otherwise, it feels like you guys are trying to quiet one of the most effective critics of the Navy over redhill.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about the etiquette. We are really grateful for you guys to bring a different viewpoint and to challenge their assertions made here and to really dig into the content. But it's really about demeanor. It's pretty clearly written in the meeting etiquette. I read an excerpt from it, and that was the standard that we used.
Excuse me, it sounds like the standard you used was you didn't like the way she signed it. She did sign it, so I'm still confused.
It was not respectful or professional, are the words that are in the ground rules and really what we're trying to achieve right here.
Does it say specifically about a signature? I thought it was demeanor within the meeting like we are now.
It is about etiquette.
So I had a conversation over this with Amy Miller of Region 9 at the last meeting where this was a problem. And it was my understanding that it was going, the arrangement was that she would sit out one meeting as a member of the public and then be allowed to participate as a full member.
I'm sorry if there's a miscommunication, but that was not the determination at the time.
So Mandy's being judged for actions that she took before the ground rules were put into effect. The request that's being made now is that she be given a chance to participate and be judged by the ground rules and her behavior going forward, as opposed to some sort of retroactive assessment of her behavior.
We spent a long time trying to bring this group together, and that kind of behavior just really underlines the effort that we're doing here. So either we could not move forward with these meetings, or we can move forward with those that are willing to abide by the ground rules.
Jamie, have you spoken to Amy? It sounds like there was an
I know,
agreement.
yeah, I'm very much in communication with Amy. Unfortunately, she was not available today to participate, but I'm going to.
So you spoke to her about what you were going to tell us tonight?
Yep.
I have a few words I wanted to say. As the Kanaka Maoli representative on this committee, for over 7 months, the Navy did not attend meetings with the redhillCRI during the critical periods of refueling and degassing when the consent order was amended, and we were reduced to the Navy's community engagement forums. We were allowed to ask questions regarding the shutdown of Redhill we are allowed to ask questions regarding the shutdown of Redhill and our precious water. We agreed to a third-party facilitator and then verbally agreed to the ground rules one by one, and it's on video, including Mandy. She did agree to the ground rules.
Recording in progress.
Yet we were asked to sign a document holding us to this. Currently, the Navy is looking to renew 8,195 acres of stolen Hawaiian Kingdom lands in Mana, Mohili, Koke'e, and surrounding areas, Mauka to Makai in West Hawaii. And for decades, you folks use these lands for just $1 and were allowed to destroy this critical habitat for endangered and threatened species. Dug up burials, spilled PFAS, launched missiles, and now you folks are asking for public input and support to retain these lands. I attended the meetings, the public Navy meetings that was held on the draft EIS for the Pacific Missile Range facility for the retention of these lands. And at these hearings, I heard all about the money you put in the community and how they won't give any more money if these leases aren't renewed. I also heard about how you want to hear from the community. That seemed to be a real big theme in the hearings that I attended on Kauai. The presentation was about working with the community, providing jobs, and even allowing hula halau to access these lands for cultural reasons in your efforts to rebuild trust. The bottom line here is Mandy and her 2 children and her husband were poisoned. And she deserves a voice on this redhillCRI. She was duly elected. As a Kanaka Maoli, as one of thousands who still claim interest in the lands that you folks use, and we have yet to receive 1 cent of compensation or reparations for the use of these lands, I ask you, do you now believe that you are building trust by silencing a duly elected member of the CRI who already verbally agreed to the ground rules? What happened to wanting to hear from the community? What is this really about? Because you violated the consent order by refusing to attend meetings, right? Yet you didn't have any consequences, yet you're holding a woman who was betrayed and harmed to a higher standard than the one that you hold for yourselves. And that's why I'm just flabbergasted. Why can't we let Mandy sit on the committee and have a voice? What harm will it do? I just was at your hearings.
This was an EPA decision. We didn't even talk to the Navy about this. This was us as a neutral facilitator wanting to build a relationship, and we've explained that. And to be insulted is tough. You know, I fly out here. I got 3 kids. I gave them breakfast this morning. I flew out. I'm having this meeting. I'm doing a red eye tonight to get home to them. So I can do this so that we can share information with you guys.
Her kid has permanent lung damage.
Would you guys like to discuss the content of the agenda?
Yes, very much so. I have some very pointed questions to ask.
Okay.
But I want all of us to be able to participate.
Yeah. I mean, can we take a vote on it? I mean,
No, EPA is the facilitator, and this is our determination.
One more very quick question. V, are you familiar with trauma-informed facilitation? Do you realize what people have been through here? And do you realize that behavior is not going to be similar to someone who hasn't been traumatized in these ways?
I am not familiar with that. That's not something that I practice. I understand the concept. But the question really is, should we continue with this meeting? We haven't even finished introductions yet, and we are trying to get to the agenda. I just would like to know, are we going to proceed with the meeting as it is without Mandy's participation right for this meeting, or are we insisting on having her participate at the table or not?
There are members online that would like to say something.
I can't see who.
Michelle Poplar, Bill South, and Jamie Sidnick.
Okay, we can hear from Michelle first. Is that whose hand is raised? I'm sorry.
Aloha. Yes, so the question, Susan, if you would mind repeating, we were talking about trauma-informed care, yes?
Yes. And trauma-informed facilitation, because these are not ordinary circumstances.
Yes, yeah. So on this topic, and as an affected community member, and interacting with my neighbors, and here with the CRI, the brain and the nervous system is part of the body. The science hasn't caught up yet to her with the human nervous system and the exposure to consuming chemicals that are in jet fuel, and what that looks like and how that is. I can definitely testify, it's my experience of, as soon as I was consuming the water on the Navy waterline, I did notice differences in my health and mental health. And as service members that we appreciate that put their bodies and minds and spirits on line for our country, to protect us. The information that members of our military know and do, and how they put themselves out there to protect, to serve and protect, can cause post-traumatic stress. If they experience things that are very scary, and they come home and they have experiences like night terrors or flashbacks, intrusive thoughts, where they have memories of incidents that kind of just repeat in the mind. And it takes time to heal from those things. So for those of us, especially for the service members who experience, dis-ease from the incident, it's a double betrayal because they put their bodies on the line and then they were poisoned and all of this, and it hurts their soul in a way, and it hurts. It causes a daily reminder when you turn on the faucet, you're like, is this safe? You know, and it puts you in a mental space, and there's no avoiding the what we call in psychology a trigger, as far as like something that will cause a memory, like say if somebody's in a war zone and they heard a boom or they saw an explosion and they're out in their daily lives and they hear a firecracker or something like that, like, you know, that will cause a subconscious primal trauma response as a trigger. So the folks, you know, including myself and my child, we're working on it, right? You know, like things happen in life, and you gotta, you know, you gotta heal, and you gotta work through it. But trauma-informed care looks like basically validating feelings of these individuals, including myself and other people. We have some feelings, and we're working through those feelings, and that might lead us to act out and react rather than respond. So a reaction looks like, you know, when we're triggered, we might go, oh, man, we're mad, and we might, you know, post on, so like, you know, there's people who go on the social media and they'll go on the threads. I've seen it on the JPBH, you know, website, and they'll go on the threads and they'll say, well, you, and they use things like you statements that point the finger and blame, right? And that causes more conflict and turmoil. So in trauma-informed care, it is important not to use the word you, as in, you poisoned the water, and you did this and that. I mean, like, it's a triggering word. So the more healthy way is to say, well, what are we gonna do about it? What am I gonna do about it? And then move forward in a way where, you know, there's conscious communication that is not accusatory, but rather collaborative, and also not diminishing the feelings of the individual that is in trauma response, who is emotionally charged, because it's very easy for those of us who have had our families physically harmed and physically changed. Our bodies are different, our minds are different. For us to, it is challenging for us to find that composure at times and to be forgiving and compassionate. And it takes time. Trust is built with aligned actions over time. And that takes time to take aligned actions over time. And that's what we're here, and I'm grateful to have us all here working together on this. And it's not easy. It's like being in a family. We're all Ohana. We're all part of the Aina, the land. We all partake of the Wai, the water. It's in our bodies. You know, Kama Aina, we're part of the land, you know. I'm not Kanaka, but I'm made up of this land. I'm made up of this water. And everyone here partakes of the water, of the Wai, of this land. And that's life force. And that's what we're here for. We're here to purify the Wai. and purify our hearts and purify our bodies and minds and spirits. And I believe that, you know, even though like there's like, there might be a little, you know, awkwardness and turmoil and the past, and you know, oh, we can't undo the past. We can't go in a time machine and we can't change it. But we're here now, we're present. And I believe that there are solutions, and that I'm grateful that we're all here and that we can come together. And yeah, so mahalo, sorry, that's a long rant.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two more.
Okay,
Jamie Simnick.
yeah, that's fine, Jamie Simlick.
Aloha, I just want to say, as an affected family member and as somebody that started this with Mandy Fine, she has been a huge ally. Although we all may not agree, like how Michelle was just eloquently explaining trauma, we may not all agree on how each other reacts to things, or I'm not privy to behind the scenes, I'm sitting in as an alternate. But I can say that Mandy has been a fierce advocate, and she has been a fierce ally that was voted on by the public. But as well, we've had to sit back as affected family members and take gaslighting and blame shifting, even to this day, even recently, from the Navy and officials saying that this is either all in our heads or it's not happening, and we are expected to remain calm. We've also had some officials ignore us when we're at town halls, whether live or in person, and try to speak to them. I don't know the behind the scenes and the outbursts, but we're expected to move on and to lead with grace and lead with compassion and trust that what we're being told and what is going on is really what's going on, even though we're trying to ask questions. We've been dismissed, we've been pushed to the side. What I come calling for is, although I may not agree to how everybody responds to everything, as you see, my shirt says, let's just love each other. I believe that we should lead with compassion, but we also should be firm. We should also have forgiveness, and we should understand that people react in certain ways during certain times, and if we're expected to forgive the Navy for what has happened to Oahu, to the Y, and to the affected family members, how is the Navy not able to forgive, or the EPA have behind closed doors conversations, forgive, and move forward from this? Especially if she's already participated in a meeting since this incident happened. Again, don't know all behind the scenes. I don't know, I wasn't there when these things occurred, but I do know what an advocate she has been for affected families, along with everybody else on this panel. And if she is a valued member to the community and to those affected, we can show some grace. If we are expected to show grace to the Navy and the EPA and those that got us to this point when there have been warnings for decades. We've sat across the table for 3 to 4 years now listening to the same narratives. I'm just asking for you guys to give the same thing that you expect us to give you on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you. And then the last speaker,
Bill South.
thank you.
Yes, I'm going to keep this brief. I know we need to move ahead, but I really need to ask our friends in the Navy and the EPA if your egos are that fragile that something like this really messes you up. Come on. Mandy is a true asset to the Navy, one of the best. And I believe there's a prejudice against her because she's a woman. If a man had done that in her position, I don't think this would have happened. You would have laughed it off. So, guys, grow up. Please grow up, and please come on board, let Mandy join the group, okay? That's it. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you.
What's that? The Kona cards. We're 40 minutes into the agenda. Is this the only thing we wanted to discuss today?
I think mine had her card at first.
I just want to say I stand with my fellow CRI members, and if Mandy is on the EPA's website that I just checked, her name is still on the website, then that means she is still part of the CRI. That's all.
I have two comments. One, I think this is fascist level behavior. You are targeting someone who is an effective critic, and that's something that fascists do. And in this day and age, given the context that we live in, I think a government that promises to not be fascist should be bending over to make sure that critics are folded into the conversation. This is very, very disappointing. I want, like all of the soldiers who lost their lives in the name of defending our freedom of speech, and then Mandy doesn't get to participate because she doesn't flatter you guys enough. That's really concerning. Second,
None of you guys are flattering us. EPA makes a decision. She's not one of our employees. This is a basic decorum level. Guys, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. If you guys
what
want to
about
continue with the
what about
agenda,
allowing
we're
her
gonna
to
do that.
participate on a trial basis? What if
We can discuss for future meetings. If she wants grace and she comes in and says that she wants to participate, we can discuss it. We're not doing it today. We're gonna take a little break and you guys can decide if you wanna do the agenda.
Last comment.
First of all, I wanted to know under what policy says that she cannot participate because of her signature. And then I wanted to ask each one of you your personal opinion, because I'm sure it's like a broad.
We are not gonna, this is an EPA decision and not the Navy.
Okay.
And so, Kim, if you want to respond, otherwise we'll take a 5-minute break.
Hold into all of this. But if you guys could later on, please say if you do not want Mandy on. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna take a 5-minute break and either we will proceed with the agenda or we can adjourn the meeting.
I think it's sad that this is about EPA's ego. You're a regulator, you're supposed to be protecting people, not having an ego.
sure that the Zoom stays on. Zoom, it's on Zoom. Yeah.
We get started again? Okay, why don't we move to the first agenda item and have the Navy report out on the July 2nd spill, incident response and the cleanup.
Sure.
We have someone waving in. Can you give us just a sec to get going?
Oh, okay.
And new announcements. There's 3 announcements.
We're good.
The registry, the national.
That's what, during that, do.
It was in the very beginning, announcements.
It's the last 10 minutes.
It's the last
before
10
public
minutes.
comment.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know it.
You're trying to use it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. The Navy can proceed.
Sure. Okay, so just regarding to the July 1st event, so just a few things right up front. So it's outside the purview of my mission and it's other commander's business, and that's the Joint Base Commanding Officer. Oh, sorry, that's right, we hadn't done it. I thought we had done insurance. How you doing? I'm Admiral Mark Williams, I'm the Deputy Commander for the Navy Closure Task Force. With me is Commander Ben Dunn.
Deputy for Environment and Remediation. I lead the enhanced drinking water monitoring, water-related items, and the environmental monitoring and remediation for the Closure Task Force.
Good evening, Captain Kevin McCormick, Chief of Staff for the Navy Closure Task Force.
Okay, with that, and so like I said, so the spill event the release event on July 1st was not related to any Closure Task Force activities, nor were we involved. And the Joint Base is conducting an internal after-action review of the event and will make adjustments if required to their training tactics and procedures based on findings and lessons learned. So on the morning of July 1st, there was a contained fuel release of about 300 gallons of fuel at an underground fuel pumping house there on the Joint Base. The release occurred during maintenance operations on an active fuel line that's part of the active fuel system. And that maintenance contractor was an Army Corps of Engineer contractor doing work on behalf of the Joint Base. Again, neither the Navy Closure Task Force nor NAVFAC was involved with the work that was being done. The Department of Health responded, was notified, and responded about 1:30 that afternoon on July 1st, and then came back on July 2nd to verify cleanup efforts. And the DOH confirmed that the release was contained and recovered without any impact to the surrounding environment. Furthermore, the release did not occur near any water source, and there's no ongoing risk to the environment or public health. Specific questions about the event should be directed to the Joint Base Public Affairs Department.
Okay, are there any questions?
How do we know it didn't push the environment? Like, explain, like, okay, so I have a little trauma because I all remember that the November 2021 leak started in May, right? And they told us, don't worry, we got it all contained. So I just would like to maybe see the math a little bit. How much was released? How do we know that it was only 300 total, that we got it all? How do we know it didn't touch the environment? Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty. I'm going to call.
Trying to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kathy Ho. I also wanted to recognize that the families have experienced trauma as a result of this. But I do want to call up Grace Simmons, who is the HERE office branch chief, who oversees the cleanup. And she could help you. Grace, we could provide you, do we have a map?
Hi, I'm Grace Simmons. Grace, want to come here? Which way? Here? Oh, right there? Sorry.
While she's finding her seat, do you know what training, so there was a lot of emphasis put on how the Navy has changing their training approach to be able to prevent the spills from happening. And I'm just curious if the new training efforts have been, implemented. Has everybody been trained up? Is this an indication that I'm concerned that we spend all this time and effort on training and put all our faith in training and we still are having leaks?
Let's have
Grace Simmons.
Hello. Answer the first question.
Okay, so the question about the leak is accurate. However, we're still waiting for the Fuels Department, Navy Region, to provide us with a report. Today, they have 30 days to respond to us, so we're waiting for all of the documents to come in. My staff did go out on the 2 days on July 1st and 2nd to oversee the cleanup, and they were very satisfied that there was nothing that penetrated into the cement. Now, that being said, we won't know until the full report comes in.
Okay. So it's probably more accurate to say we don't know yet.
Correct. I mean, we're still waiting for the final report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions for Grace?
Were residents notified?
Was it their question on training that you want them to respond to that?
Yeah.
So I can't speak to Joint Base, it's other matters business. I can't speak to Joint Base. I can tell you with regards to the Navy Coalition Task Force, our team and what we're trained to and certified to. But that's a question I would submit if you're curious to the Joint Base Public Affairs.
Okay, so we put this on the agenda, but we didn't bring anybody who can answer questions. Okay.
Thanks.
Did you notify residents about the spill?
No.
Nearby residents?
No.
DOH submitted a press release.
There was a press release on July 2nd.
Nothing else in the press release? No other notification of the spill?
We notified the regulators in accordance with the requirements, and then they submitted a press release.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
See him online.
How was the cleanup done? Do you know, or you can't answer that question? Was it pressure washed, and how was it contained, and how did what solvent was used? I mean, we're concerned, of course, because of Red Hill. It's the same scenario where you've got the tanks themselves are concrete, and it still was able to penetrate that. So do you have knowledge of the procedure as to how it was cleaned and where the wastewater went?
I think all of those questions can be answered in the final report from the Navy Region Hawaii. Different Navy. This is the Navy Region Hawaii, part of Joint Base, that's responsible for the cleanup.
When does the
If I may follow up?
It's due anytime.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Did you go and do an inspection? And if so, then, well, I guess you did say it was inspected. What means did you use? What methodology was used for the inspection?
Well, I can only base it on what my on-scene coordinator reported when he came back. And he did say that it was, the pipeline that leaked was, there was a catchment that was able to contain the release. However, it overflowed and it went onto the concrete. It was power washed, that much I know, and it was collected. And so in terms of the visual inspection, nothing was released to the environment. So it went into the concrete and it was pressure washed.
Was it only a visual inspection versus some kind of chemical inspection?
At that time, it was a visual inspection.
Just a visual
And,
inspection?
and the Navy did bring in their contractor to clean up.
Okay, well, historically, it's been, what is it? They say it's user error, and that's not the terminology, but it's always who's doing the maintenance and it causes this type of spill. Is this something that could be attributable to whoever was working that area? And then as follow-up with what Marty was saying, what kind of protocols are now being put in place so that there's no future spills such as that?
Understood. I think the final report hopefully will address that. And we can share that once we get it.
So, we have, I'll just mention her. Two questions online. The agenda only allowed for 15 minutes on this topic. We have a little less than 5 minutes left on this. So, I'll go to the two questions, but I just wanted you to know that we may not be able to get to all of them unless you want to have less time on the other two agenda items. So, it was Michelle first. Michelle?
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. I accidentally clicked off. Zoom technology. Anyway, I just had a simple question. Do you use like a vacuum to like suck up the oil, like, you know, that's spilled, and was it contained? So I'm just repeating what I feel that I think that I heard. Sorry, airplane. So there was a cement area that was contained, as far as like where the spill on July 1st occurred, as I'm hearing and understanding. And the spill occurred, it did not get absorbed into the cement, and it was, I think, did they vacuum it up, and contain it that way? Sorry to sound ignorant, I'm just trying to repeat what I heard and get clarity.
And I think we can clarify that with a report that's due. So hopefully that will be answered.
Okay, great, yeah, because I was just imagining it in my head, I'm like, okay, so what does that look like? Does it look like a, you know, like a cement area where like it's, like where it's cement and then the cement goes up like this, you know? And then maybe it didn't get out into a dirt area, like that wasn't, you know, there was no drains, like were there no drains that it went through? So I'm just thinking, you know, logistically, what did all that area look like? And then what was used to clean it up, like I would imagine of like some sort of suction vacuum that suction that.
Look, Michelle, the guys that are here can't answer our questions, so we should just move on. They don't know anything about this.
Does anybody have a response to
I know,
that question?
It's too many working parts, okay. I just have so many questions. All right.
So again, the joint base is the responding agent, right? This is their commander's business, and it would be inappropriate for me to comment on their efforts, their operations. You know, the final report is due, I think, tomorrow.
Today's the 30th day. Today's the 31st.
No, it's 30 days after the cleanup, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right,
So-
the second, even though it still happened on the first.
We'll get you the report. Thank you.
So the final report will include the details of what happened and what was done to clean up.
I don't know why this is on this agenda then. Jamie has a question.
Jamie, are you
In
ready?
regards of notifying the affected family, this is, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is in regards of notifying the affected families. We're now numerous spills since the inception of this tank, numerous spills since 2014, 18, 20, 21. How are we not, how is the Navy not notifying families? We have technology, we have emergency alerts, we have, you can send guys out door to door to let families know. At this point, why have we not learned from the lessons? I know you guys don't want to cause panic or harm. This is something that is affecting our community, affecting our families, and when the affected families hear of another spill, whether you guys like it or not, it is triggering of their trauma, their PTSD, and even if it's not that, they have a right to know. So is there something that you guys could be doing better in order to implement if and when this does happen again? And this is a reason why we should have continued the long-term monitoring that this CRI was advocating for, that just ended in March, and now we are here in July with another spill, and all we hear is, okay, there was just a quick notification that is gone in the media in 2.5 seconds, if not less. And families that live in that area, your single sailor or your soldiers, single soldiers have a right to know, and the families, the civilians that are working on base in that area have a right to know that this has happened, let alone the residents of Oahu. So can we, in the future, take this, again, another learning lesson of another spill and failure to notify and failure in notifying families, learn from it, and implement a system to where if something happens again, I don't care if it's 5 gallons, you are notifying families and those in the surrounding areas of what is going on.
Thank you, and it's a good way to build trust.
So I'll take that back to the commander and provide that feedback.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next agenda topic, which is the reopening of the Navy's, I'll probably pronounce this wrong, Hālawa and Redhill shafts.
All right, thanks, Dee. Aloha, good afternoon, everybody. Give you an overview of where we're at with our shaft reactivation planning and preparations. As I briefed previously, we continue to conduct planning and preparation for both the reactivation of Navy IAEA Hālawa shaft and the Navy's Redhill shaft. Both wells that have been inactive are isolated from the drinking water system since 2021. Collectively with the Waiaha well, our primary drinking water source, those 2 wells provide would provide a resiliency, designed to provide a resiliency and redundancy to the system for Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam. That system serves approximately 100,000 daily consumers, and then it supports all of the operations across Joint Base, Pearl Harbor Hickam, emergency services, military operations, so forth. So specifically for Navy IAEA Hālawa shaft, so over the past year, I've been very busy. We've conducted extensive monitoring and have installed that granular activated carbon treatment system we talked about a bit last time, specifically to address concerns of PFAS at that source well in advance of the EPA's recently promulgated updated national primary drinking water standards, which reduce thresholds for allowable levels of PFAS, which all utility systems are required to comply with by 2029. So I'd like to give you an overview of the water quality that we've observed at Navy IAEA Hālawa shaft over the past year. We continue to closely monitor the source water conditions, and during this period we have not detected any petroleum hydrocarbons. We are not concerned with petroleum hydrocarbons at that source. We are specifically concerned with PFAS at the Navy IAEA Hālawa shaft. We've conducted frequent PFAS sampling over the past year at the well, and results have come in with persistent low-level detections of PFAS compounds. The highest at a level below 20 parts per trillion, which meets standards today, but does not meet the forthcoming standards that utilities must comply with in 3 years from now, 4 years from now.
How often is frequent?
It's bi-monthly for the PFAS sampling.
So twice a month,
Bi-monthly is every other month.
every month.
Yes.
If I may also.
That is not frequent.
It is frequent for PFAS standards,
And you just indicated 20 parts per trillion?
20 parts per trillion.
Isn't the standard at 4 parts per trillion?
Standard is 70 parts per trillion for the analyte of PFAS. Currently today, it is published at 4 parts per trillion, that utilities must comply with that level beginning in 2029. And that's why we've pursued a treatment system here at this drinking water well, so that it would address that PFAS concern and bring us into compliance at that point in time.
Where can we find the results of your testing for all the wells, both before and after you put the water through the GAC system?
Certainly, it's those results are available on the Safe Waters website. We launched a website earlier this year called the Well Recovery and Water Resiliency line that has information about well reactivation for the IEF Hālawa shaft. It will have information on the Redhill shaft, but specifically on that page, it also has water sampling results for both wells and the Hālawa well, our active source. That's all centralized, easy to find on that singular website. That's why we created that new webpage, so that's available.
And what efforts have you made to inform the residents about the reopening and reconnection of these poison wells to their faucets?
Thank you. Let me finish briefing, and I'll cover some of that as well. So thank you. So since our last update, we've had the Department of Health come visit the Navy IEF Hālawa shaft and the GAC treatment system to do a routine inspection. We've continued preparations and some engineering work to prepare for the physical tie-in of that GAC treatment system into the distribution system, which has not happened yet. So the treatment system can be supplied by the well, but the treatment system cannot provide water into the distribution system at this time. We have not connected it. We've completed our pre-reactivation monitoring pilot to evaluate the GAC treatment. As designed and as we expected, that treatment system removes PFAS in the source water. We've seen no petroleum hydrocarbons or polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons detected in the source water. We did observe some hydrocarbon detections on the back end of the process coming out of the ion exchange vessel, which is the third component of the treatment system. We've confirmed this is not fuel related, but we're looking into this further for additional evaluation. We just recently submitted the pilot study report of that monitoring pilot to DOH just about 10 days ago, and we will be posting that on the Safe Waters page at the same location where that other information is. Well, we just received acknowledgement from the Department of Health that they've got that report. They're going to take a look at it. They're also going to be keen to hear our results from the evaluation of the continued investigation for the ion exchange treatment. Today, the treatment system remains disconnected, as I mentioned, from the distribution system, and upon completion of all those remaining actions, we will request the Department of Health to come back out and do a full inspection of the treatment system, the tie-in to the drinking water system, take a look at the shaft again, then also review our additional data that we would provide from our evaluation. If it meets their standards, then we would request formally for reactivation of the well, and then at which point we would stand by for approval from DOH and then proceed with reactivation. So we're a little ways out from that point in time. We do remain on plan for reactivating this well and bringing it back into service for a routine supply of drinking water this calendar year. That's the goal. So communication-wise, throughout the process, we've continued to communicate the upcoming reactivation of the Navy IEF through multiple mediums and engagements, including in April, we did at our last quarterly CRI meeting, I presented on this subject. We had a few days later a webinar informational webinar about the treatment system and the process for reactivation. We've informed Department of Land and Natural Resources and the Commission of Water Resource Management and the U.S. House of Representatives in May. We engaged CWRM again. We had a city council engagement, updated the Hawaii House representatives, provided some information on the Puna Council engagement. We also held our open house, which we overviewed reactivation of both wells back in May. In June, we updated the Governor's Water Committee. Earlier this month, we had the Hawaii House Committee on Red Hill, which we provided an update on the shaft reactivations here today. Again, we're providing an update with the progress that we've made. Over the coming month, we have another open house, which we will make available one of the stations for shaft reactivation. We have a few congressional engagements. And over the past 4 months, we've issued 7 public messages in our Red Hill highlights, providing information and updates. In the same period, we've conducted 16 drinking water info booths, so about an average of 1 per week. We rotate those locations around the zones or the neighborhoods that are supplied by the Joint Base Drinking Water System. So it's a passive engagement. We set up an information booth for consumers to come and get resources, share information and updates, show them how they can see drinking water sample results on the website, how to navigate it, so forth. And we've had multiple neighborhood board meetings throughout the spring and summer. So we're going to continue that battle rhythm or those that cadence of engagements, and there will be additional updates. As we get closer to reactivation, we will notify consumers through the joint base prior to doing so, and there's various mechanisms to do so, but that plan hasn't been fully vetted yet, so we're remaining detailed planning and coordination with the joint base about that. Again, we remain on schedule to reactivate the Navy IAEA Hālawa shaft this year. We'll continue to closely coordinate with DOH. DOH is involved every step of the way and has been very critical of our efforts, which certainly appreciative. We don't want to miss any steps, and we don't want to have any oversights throughout this process.
Just noting it's been 10 minutes.
Information relating to the reactivation well, again, is currently available on the Safe Waters website on the well reactivation water resiliency page. So I'm going to move over to the Red Hill shaft, and then we'll open up the questions. This is a little bit shorter of an update. So similar to Navy IAEA Hālawa shaft, the Red Hill shaft is a critical element of our future resiliency. It provides more of a supply than what the Navy IAEA Hālawa shaft can do for the Navy. So it's essential that we recover the Red Hill shaft. Even though conditions today do not warrant a treatment system, the Navy is required to install a treatment system to reactivate the well. It's also doing so now to look to achieve compliance with the updated EPA standards for national primary drinking water standards with respect to PFAS. PFAS is not a concern at the Red Hill shaft. We haven't seen evidence to our sampling to be concerned with the PFAS. Specifically, the water quality results over the past year, we've sampled the Red Hill shaft even more extensively than the Navy IAEA Hālawa shaft. We've conducted monthly and quarterly water quality monitoring. We've done the bi-monthly or every other month PFAS sampling like we do with the Navy IAEA Hālawa shaft. We also do twice monthly groundwater sampling of that shaft, all with close oversight of the Department of Health. The Navy has not detected petroleum hydrocarbons at the Red Hill shaft in the past year or longer. The highest levels of PFAS remain at about 1 part per trillion for Red Hill shaft, well below current and future PFAS standards. And so efforts involving Red Hill shaft planning for reactivation. We continue progress with the installation of a drinking water capable treatment system. It's an interim gap treatment system for Red Hill shaft in advance of our plans to construct a permanent water treatment facility. This interim gap treatment system is expected to be in operation in 2027. So we're still a ways out from that point. We've incorporated public comments received on the ongoing environmental assessment for the construction of the permanent water treatment facility for Red Hill. That project is known as P716, and the connection of the Red Hill shaft to the drinking water system. And then the assessment, that environmental assessment, will be formalized here in the coming months. A design for that permanent water treatment facility has been provided to the Hawaii Department of Health for review. And we continue to extensively monitor the Red Hill shaft as we have done for the past year. So we're certainly leveraging the experience that we're walking through and gaining from the Navy IAF Hālawa shaft reactivation process so that we can apply that to the more complex process for bringing Red Hill shaft back into service in the future. Actively working through each milestone in the process with the regulators, both EPA and UH is intimately involved, and the community as we progress through these actions, and we'll continue to provide updates to everybody in the future at future forums and engagements. Thank you. So happy to field some questions.
We'll start with Melody. I'm going to just go down the road since I wasn't seeing who.
Yeah, I think Maya better card it first.
We can start with Maya and then I'm going to work my way back.
Thank you. Thank you for that update, Commander. Commander, you also said 2 words that I would like a little more clarification on. You said passive engagement for communication for residents and people of Hawaii. To me, hearing passive engagement is pretty standard. You have the website, you have the public webinars, the open houses, the booths, the Kupuna councils. But what I think I didn't hear was notifying consumers that you will be doing this. You said you will, so that means that it hasn't happened yet. I would like to see that passive word change into an active statement. We are going to notify consumers on the lines, and I was listening, I don't know if you can hear, but we do have residents sitting behind me, and they do want to be, and I am a resident as well, we do want to be notified of when these things will be opened, not just in the ways you did it, but you actually have to make housing and people in Kapilina informed by requiring housing to share emails. That has not been happening. They don't tell us at the town halls, I can tell you for a fact. And I've spoken to your HR and your publicity people at these open houses. Housing does not notify us. Ohana Navy Hunt, the Kapilina people, the other guys on Hickam, they don't notify residents. So I don't know where the disconnect is, but I would like you to get more involved in notifying residents so that is an active thing on your part.
Yeah, so with regards to notifying residents, so much like you just received the consumer confidence report, or you should have received that, so the same notification, we use that same methodology, because that's required and everybody gets that. We're not reliant on a third party to then push that information. So as we get closer to the actual reactivation date, once we have approval from the Department of Health, that will prompt a notification similar like you see in the consumer confidence report, right? That will come from the joint base commanding officer, just like the consumer confidence report did. And then we'll take that back with, again, trying to work with Hunt and on and others, probably Beach Homes, about continuing to push and propagate information down. We have asked and we will continue to push that, so we appreciate that feedback that you're not getting that information.
Lisa?
Thank you. I heard you say that there's 1 part per trillion for the PFAS, and absolutely no amount of PFAS is safe to drink. And I see that the Department of Health is really in the process of, step by step of what you guys are doing. I want to know how Board of Water Supply is involved, because we have Ernie Lau here, because I would like to know from him, from his viewpoint, if that's possible.
This meeting is for the Navy to share information with CRI and here to answer questions you have of them. So if Mr. Lau wants to say something, he's welcome to during the public comment period. That's how these meetings are structured. So
Okay, so before, sorry to interrupt, but in the early days, when we were dealing with Bob Thompson and Amy Miller, the agreement was that we would be able to call up experts whenever we needed to participate.
It does say regulators here, and Board of Water Supply is a regulator.
No, they're regulated.
Yeah, we've addressed this in, I don't know what meeting it was, but if you're interested in having Board of Water Supply, we'd want to make sure to get them on the agenda and include them as part of the discussion in advance. We would be open to bringing in external experts, such as Board of Water Supply. But we really need to include that as part of the planning phase of the meeting.
Okay. So my question is, how have you involved Board of Water Supply?
So Board of Water Supply is a water purveyor, just like we are. And so they've got their own challenges and own issues to deal with regards to PFAS. PFAS is a national issue that everyone's got to deal with. It's not unique to the Department of Defense or the Department of Navy. And I'm sure Mr. Lau is going to tell you that same thing. So they've got their own issues. We have our own experts that we work with, and our own consultants that we work with, and our own subject matter experts that we work with to tackle this problem.
When was the last time Dr. Ernie?
So again, with regards to the Board of Water Supply, at the bottom line is this, right? So with regards to future engagements and discussions with the Board of Water Supply, that is further complicated by the decision to file a lawsuit against the Navy. And so if you have questions about how we're going to engage with the Board of Water Supply in the future, I would recommend you contact the Department of Justice.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just letting that sink in, that you haven't talked to the Board of Water Supply about how you're going to be pulling more water from the same aquifer that we're all relying on. It's gonna take me a minute. How much does it cost for the Red Hill water treatment system?
So the Milcon programming cost estimate, this is not just construction, but there's other things involved in this, is that line item in the National Defense Authority Act is about $500 million.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't understand the terminology. So it's $500,000 to construct it.
Half a billion.
$500 million, excuse me, thank you for the correction. $500 million to construct it and operate it for how long?
So the design of the facility is, I believe, a 50-year design. That does not include the life cycle costs of the yearly operations and maintenance. That is essentially to bring it online and bring it on operations.
Okay, so it's $500 million so $500 million, right? To design it for 50 years, build it, and start using it. But then past that, do you have an estimate for how much to use it on a whatever yearly basis?
I don't off the top of my head. I know that will be looked at in out years as they get closer to having, once the Milcon is programmed and we have a year that it will become functional, they'll start to do the budget calculations to figure out what the operations and maintenance costs would be so that it's appropriately accounted for in that year's budget.
And I'm just curious, have you looked at the potential, cost benefit analysis comparison kinds of things between saving water and not using as much water?
So all of, regarding the water conservation efforts, so things like the wastewater treatment facility, the wastewater treatment facility, a treatment plant upgrades and that recapitalization effort, that includes purple pipes, right? So reclaimed water use for irrigation and other things. Much of what the Joint Base is doing in Navy Region Hawaii is looking at ways to conserve water, ways to reuse where we can. Obviously, things like the purple pipes and pipes, or I refer to as purple pipes for reclaimed water, that requires congressional appropriations to enact and install. So there's lengthy processes, and as we program other military construction projects, those types of things are added to them to capitalize on those opportunities.
Okay. And so the $500 million has already been approved?
It is in the Appropriations Act, the Appropriations Act. It has not been authorized yet. So there's two parts of the congressional appropriate, so.
Thank you.
Okay, Melody? Thank you. And my question is the source of the PFAS? Would that be from the November 29, 2022 spill of 1,300 gallons of AFFF with the PFAS concentrate? Do you believe that that is the source, that now you are seeing it in your Hālawa shaft at 20 parts per trillion, as well as 1 part per trillion at the redhill shaft?
So one, PFAS is obviously not part of this meeting. It's not part of the AOC. That's really a question that is for the RAB. And that as the PFAS remedial investigation is part of the EARN program, so managed differently than not part of the Navy Closure Task Force mission per se, that cleanup and that investigation. as they do that investigation, it's way early on for them to try to pinpoint a source. They're right now in the early stages of that RI process, but that RI process will include, as they identify sources or identify PFAS detections, it will include for lack of a better word, a fingerprinting analysis to figure out what is the possible source and attribute it to something that they can trace it back to.
In your opinion, in your expertise and your education, do you believe that it may have come from the Red Hill spill in November 29, 2022?
I'm not going to speculate. There are far smarter people in this subject, and again, the thing with this is I want to trust the process and then trust the investigation and allow it to go through and not bias it in any way by voicing an opinion one way or the other. We need to let the science work.
Okay, I'd like to follow up with Commander Dunn with his saying, your reference to 70 parts per trillion threshold that reflects an older federal advisory level or state level guidance, and it is not the current enforceable standard, which I had indicated earlier at 4 parts per trillion. So as of April 2024, the EPA's final national primary drinking water regulation sets the MCLs for PFOA and PFOS at 4 parts per trillion. So what does that mean? That means that your detection of 20 parts per trillion of PFOA and PFOS is 5 times higher than the EPA's enforceable MCL of 4 parts per trillion. So while the 20 parts per trillion may be below the older threshold, as you indicated at 70 parts per trillion, it is not in compliance with the current federal standards. Now, you did say that all of the water systems have to be in compliance by April 2029. What happens, what difference does it make whether it's in compliance today when it's causing substantial harm and risk of cancer and other illnesses versus the 29th? I mean, you need to let the public know you're gonna open a shaft that has 20 parts per trillion where the current standard is at 4 parts per trillion. I'm sorry, but I don't see the logic in saving human health, protecting human health and the environment when you already know that the standard set by the EPA is at 4 parts per trillion.
Thanks, Melody. That is the same standard I was talking about, but this is why we have installed that treatment system to address it. But this is a great opportunity for EPA or probably EPA rather to provide some clarification on the new 2024 updated primary drinking water standards.
Yeah, we probably have Luis on the line, so we can jump in and correct me and start giving it. But I think we're a little bit talking past each other, as you point out. In 2024, the rule was promulgated, but it won't be in effect until 2027. So the current standard is, in fact, the old standard until the new one is implemented. We hear your point. The human health is the human health, but the reason that there's a time frame is so that facilities have a chance to come into compliance with it, and we're seeing that in drinking water systems across the country, that everyone's kind of working towards that goal, because there's a lot of work that goes into meeting a rigorous standard like the one we promulgated. Was there any, Luis, did you want to tell me on that?
Thank you, Manny. Good evening, everybody. My name is Luis Garcia-Backridge. I'm with the EPA Manager Drinking Water Office in Region 9's Water Division. So I guess, kind of going to really one of the direct question about what does, basically kind of like, the standard of 4 parts per trillion, so yes, you're correct, it is the established standard, it's in federal regulation. However, in that regulation, and Commander Dunn is correct that water systems aren't required to meet that standard until 2029. So, but I think that, maybe Commander Dunn perhaps could also speak to the fact that, that while that there may be 20 parts per trillion in the source water, the treatment is going to reduce that so that it does meet that 4 part per trillion standard. And correct me if I'm wrong.
And sorry, so 2027, they have to monitor, but 2029 is when it's in effect?
Yeah, 2029 is when they need to meet the standard. So basically, water that goes out for distribution at that time needs to be below, at or below 4 parts per trillion.
Okay, thank you. I had Jamie online with a question.
You're muted, Jamie.
Sorry, technology. Aloha again, this is for the Navy and the EPA. And we're gonna stick right on the topic that we're on. I understand that you got dates and the timelines for 2027, and this is a national issue. But if we know that there's this active contamination, is there a way that we could go about notifying the public instead of saying we're in standard, because you just said we're in standard for right now that's old, but we know families are getting sick. We know people are consuming this water. We know we're 5 times what the future limit is when it should be 0, period. Should we be notifying the public and breaking it down better? I understand that we need the shafts open. I understand we're doing the gaps. I understand we're gonna clean it up. That's gonna take time. This is a moral issue and a human issue, and that's what the EPA was built for. That's what it was implemented for, was to protect public health. So instead of dancing around the dates, what can we be doing right now to make it clear and notify the public so they can protect themselves and stay vigilant, so they don't incur what us other affected families that have been on this water line, sorry, my voice is gonna go out the more I talk, the more I struggle to breathe. When are you gonna start protecting the families like you keep saying? 2027 is too far gone. If we know right now that these limits, you're gonna be out of regulations.
Thank you, Jamie. So we are within compliance today, but that source has not been a drinking water source for close to 4 years now. So people have not been consuming that water. But the reason why we're have been working very aggressively to install and implement this treatment system and then bring the shaft back online is so that the treatment system can effectively address the PFAS presence in advance of that compliance timeline, so that there is no gap in meeting compliance and meeting standards. So we meet it today, but it's not a drinking water source today. But when we do bring it online, it will address the PFAS standard and it will be within compliance of the new standard well in advance of that requirement.
But what is sitting there is leaching into the environment.
So the source water may have the PFAS present, but a source has not been identified. It's a nationwide and it's an island-wide issue. There's PFAS in multiple drinking water sources, and that's why there are GAC systems elsewhere on the island to address that before it becomes a source of drinking water.
I don't want to interrupt you, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, and I understand that. Where I currently live, sir, there is a issue probably 50 miles from here, maybe a little bit further, where their water well source was contaminated for a long time, and they were told it's fine. They have had black water, and families have been using water buffaloes since September of last year. I understand it's a national issue, but Oahu is an island. It's an island. There's only one aquifer. And this has been sitting there, And I know that it's not activated yet, but you're pushing to reactivate it, and you're pushing out a narrative that you're in compliance at 20 parts per billion, or trillion, sorry, every other month that it's testing is that. We need to make this narrative more clear, and if we, in order for families to be able to stay vigilant and protect themselves and protect each other, but also to protect the environment. Regardless of a shaft, there's one aquifer you're pulling from one area. I see, and it's in the news here, what these families are facing. And if we continue on this road, what's gonna happen with Oahu? What does Oahu do then if aquifer can't be cleaned? It's a very real issue. And we just need to be more transparent instead of saying we're in compliance and glazing over it, that everything's fine. That's all.
Bill has his hand up.
Is that a hand? Oh, it is now. Okay, Bill, this is the last question. Hang on, I'm sorry.
That's not okay. Let her ask
Well,
her question.
I had to adjust the agenda items. If I let Helani have this question, which is fine, it will cut short the time for questions and answers for the next topic. So, Bill can have his question and then we can.
We're over because the AD went over.
Yeah.
Well, the question is short. I had just a question on the GAC system. And I wanted to check there. My understanding is it's going to be disconnected after 9 consecutive quarters of client source water. Is that correct?
Bill, I'm not sure. You said disconnected. It's been disconnected since 2021. Do you want to clarify?
Okay, but let's see. Okay. Now the new system, and maybe I'm a little confused. Tell me about the new system that's going to be cost $500 million. Now, what does that achieve?
So the water, that's a permanent water treatment facility for Red Hill Shaft that achieves multiple objectives. We're set forth to that commitment in the Red Hill Shaft Recovery and Monitoring Plan that was established in 2022. It also, the Navy is also directed by the State of Hawaii emergency order to implement treatment for the system, or for Red Hill Shaft. It also sustains a capture zone in the Red Hill Shaft, which is what we've been doing with the current system that's on site that's not drinking water compliant. But then it ultimately would then restore that resource as a drinking water that meets standards because it is treated.
Oh, my question is so fast.
Okay.
Is where is the water being taken from Hālawa after you're treating it with the GAC? And where is the GAC filters being taken after they're being replaced? And yeah, that was my 2 questions. I just wanted to know where the water is. I was told it was being dumped on a yard, but thanks.
Yeah, so we ran a 30-day, 27-day monitoring pilot back in April and May, in which we cycled water through the treatment system in order to observe the treatment process. We discharged that water onto the lawn by the treatment system, and a good portion, the majority of that water went into a Department of Transportation stormwater drain that went into the stormwater conveyance system.
Does it go to the ocean?
To the ocean?
It may have, if it made it all the way down.
Thank you.
I have a question for Kathy.
Yeah.
So your department is going to be the one that decides whether people actually drink this water, right? Yeah, so I'd like for you to articulate for us, this report talks about how, once treatment is proven effective, they'll turn it on, right? So what are the metrics?
I'm gonna call on Dennis or Jeffrey from Safe Drinking Water who can help you answer that question.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Dennis Lopez, Department of Health, Safe Drinking Water Branch. The metrics aligns with the federal standards of 4 parts per trillion for the to regulate PFAS and PFOA compounds. Currently, I believe like documents are treating and non-detected. So we're very confident that the technology that the Navy has chosen, it's a common technology that other systems across the country have chosen. And in fact, they are they're approaching it with a multi-barrier approach. And so they are treating it not with just a GAC, but with an ion exchange. What that does is it captures regulated compounds as well, especially on the short treatment side. So we're more confident that I'm happy that the Navy is taking this. I also want to point out that the initial detections of PFAS compounds at this source was detected before the 2021 jet fuel release and the 2022 PFAS release. It's noted in their consumer confidence report where PFAS detection is required to report first-time detects, especially on the CCR.
Did they report in CCR? Did they report their PFAS detections in the 2024 CCR? I didn't see it.
No, the PFAS detections in 2020. You referred to the 2022 release?
No, the CCR reports, last year's reports. I didn't see PFAS reported by the Navy.
The source is not activated.
Oh, is that the reason? Okay. Here's my concern. So the Navy released, dumped, spilled a bunch of PFAS concentrate on the ground, on the hill, on Red Hill above the aquifer. That is now, they tried their best to scoop up the dirt, but it was a rainy day when it happened, and so that stuff is percolating down, some amount of it unknown, right? We already have PFAS in the water, but there's more PFAS coming down. PFAS lasts forever, but we're gonna spend $500 million on a system that's only gonna last for 50 years. And we've already demonstrated that the Navy has more hands than it can keep up with, so I'm concerned that this closure task force is gonna go away at some point in the near future before this 50 years is up. And we're going to have a problem where we're going to be having more PFAS, infiltrating our aquifer than the system can maintain, that the system can filter out. And I'm glad to hear that they have this, the 2 systems. You did a really good job at the prior meeting explaining those to us. I appreciate your expertise in that. But you can see why we have a forever chemical and a 50-year treatment system, and that is a cause for concern. Can you comment on that, please? Dennis? Thank you.
Well, if you have a cause for concern, then you would want that for them to have the treatment at that source.
Yeah, I guess I'm worried about the fact that we're sinking this much money into a short-term thing relative to how long this stuff lasts.
So,
sorry.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying, but I think the Navy can only take out the amount of water that they are permitted for. So as I'm hearing your concern is that there's going to be a larger amount of PFAS in the aquifer, and then it's going to overwhelm the system.
Okay.
Is that what you're?
Yeah, basically, something like that. Or the system's going to get old, something along those lines.
So we will always have our regulations. So they will always have to maintain that, whatever the level of MCL. So they're going to always have to maintain that. If it's 4, if it's something less, they're always, over time, they're going to have to maintain. All utilities will have to comply with our law, right? So whether it's a 50-year system, they're gonna have to upgrade it so that it's a 100-year system. They are gonna, if they wanna take water out of that source, they will have to comply with our law.
Thank you. Before we move on to the next topic, I thought, since we didn't do this earlier and there are members of the public and there's a public comment period, I wanted to go over how people who are here as well as online can make public comments. Everyone will have 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes to make a public comment. And if you want to do so, at the desk near the door is Alejandro, who is from EPA. He has speaker cards. Just fill out a card with your name, association, and the topic that you'd like to speak on. And we'll take those in the order that we receive them, assuming they're within the topic of what this meeting is about. For those that are online, if you'd like to speak, there's a Q&A feature in Zoom that for you to indicate that you'd like to speak during the public testimony portion of the meeting. Just include your name, your organization if you have one, and the topic you want to speak on, and we will alternate between speakers in the room and speakers who are online. That the public testimony or comment period is only 30 minutes, the last 30 minutes of the meeting. So that will begin no later than 7:30. I just want you to know that. Prior to that, the CRI has 10 minutes for comments and updates that they will be giving. So that will be starting no later than 7:20. So that means that between now and 7:20, that is the time we have left for the next topic. So I want to be clear about that, and hopefully the Navy can limit their comments or their presentation to the 10 minutes that we have allotted, and then the remainder of the time will be for questions. Okay, when the Navy's ready to begin.
All right, so I know you have several questions regarding Supplement 4, so I'm going to attempt to be brief, keep it well below 10 minutes. But I do believe it's important to level set and provide some context for everyone. So Supplement 4 builds on the previously submitted tank closure plan, as well as the previous supplements, and incorporates comments from the EPA as well as DOH. So it's important to note that back in November of 2022, about 3 years ago, we submitted the initial tank closure plan to permanently close the 20 underground storage tanks, the 4 surge tanks, and the associated valve and piping systems. The initial plan addressed things like the infrastructure description and procedures needed to be completed prior to cleaning, the sequence and processing for cleaning the tanks and the piping systems, management of the accumulated sludge, the method for permanent closure, and the associated design process, along with a number of other items. We then submitted the Supplement 1 a few months later. In February of 2023, we provided additional details on the tank and the pipeline cleaning, detailed procedures for the waste management, and then again incorporated responses from the regulators that had been received. Between the original base document and Supplement 1, we also completed and submitted a third-party analysis of alternatives for closure, which evaluated the engineering feasibility, worker safety, impact to the environment and surrounding community, and cost and time for 4 alternatives. The first alternative was closure in place. The second alternative was closure in place and preparation for non-fuel reuse, i.e. you've heard the term beneficial reuse. Third alternative was to close with fill, and then the fourth alternative was to remove the tank steel liners and then fill the remaining concrete vessels. Based on the analysis, we selected the alternative 1, which is closure in place, which minimized the impacts on the environment and surrounding community, limited safety concerns while also allowing to delay the decision on beneficial reuse. In May of 23, we submitted Supplement number 2, which provided the additional details and information on our plans for the pipeline demolition and removal, surge tank cleaning efforts, a third-party assessment of the long-term structural integrity of the tanks, and then also incorporated past comments received on past supplements and documentation from the regulators. A year later, in June of 24, we submitted Supplement 3, which was centered around the site assessment work plan in the executive summary, and then also provided an updated integrated master schedule. That brings us to supplement 4, which again expands on the previous supplements, providing clarity on and additional details on our closure strategy, pipeline removal, tank cleaning verification, physical tank modifications, post-closure tank monitoring, and documentation of historical equipment connections to the Redhill underground storage tank system. Note also that there is an ongoing tank closure design working group that meets regularly. And this team focuses and they discuss and they refine and document what the facility is eventually going to look like when we're done with our closure efforts. With regards to questions on the beneficial reuse, note that that is not part of the Navy Closure Task Force mission set. And really any decision that the Department of Defense would make on beneficial reuse would almost certainly require consultation and analysis under the National Environmental Policy Act, as well as require the EPA, DOH, and the public to have opportunity to comment. So appreciate that, and again, hopefully I kept it below 10.
Any questions? Are there any questions?
Who makes a decision about whether the tanks are reused?
So again, that's a Department of Defense decision.
I know, it's a huge entity. Who in the Department of Defense is making this decision?
There is probably not, ultimately there's probably no one person. Ultimately that would go up to the Secretary, I would imagine, for a final decision.
Why bother with reuse?
Well, I think ultimately, right, you have a facility that is uniquely constructed, and they're going to study it and look at it for different alternatives. Certainly Congress mandated a congressional study in the 23 NDAA, where the RAND Corporation looked at it for hydropower. Again, I think it will be continued to study and looked at, and somebody may come up with a unique idea that will find beneficial reuse. It is not part of our mission set, and so we're moving forward with closure in place.
Yeah, but it's on your agenda. So how long is this decision delayed for?
I don't have a timeline for you.
Right. I'm curious about what's in the tanks. We've been asking for an assessment of what's in the tanks, and we have, like the contents. It'd be easier to find what's out in the environment if we knew what was in the tanks. Do you guys have that?
So, I mean, the regulators have been provided historical documentation on, again, what we know is in the tanks: steel, fuel, water, and then the liner. That's it.
Yeah, what's in the liner?
So again, from a documentation of what composes of the liner that has been provided to the regulators. And we know
so there's zinc chromat in the liner, right?
I don't have a list of the entire chemical composition.
You got somebody with you who's got a list? All right, so my feedback for in future meetings is that the Navy brings more backup people. I'm concerned that chromium is an ingredient in whatever was used to line the tanks, and that chromium is not going to be able to be cleaned up in an effective way enough to keep it from percolating out. So I want to hear you talk intelligently about how you're going to protect us from chromium getting in the water, and how you're testing and monitoring to make sure that it's in the same way that you're going to catch all the PFAS before it gets to our taps, you're going to catch that.
So the tanks are self-contained. And the 4-line is part of the closure design. The 4-line will stay maintained and in place so that any material that is accumulated at the bottom of the tanks would be subsequently captured and removed, and not enter the environment.
Yeah, but the tanks are going to degrade, and they're already degrading. They're corroded.
So you have steel plates welded onto multiple feet of concrete that is then surrounded by gunite, and so from from a structural analysis, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of years before you would see any sort of material degradation of the tanks.
Okay, so are you monitoring for chromium?
I do not believe that is one of the constituents that is on our groundwater monitoring program.
Please monitor for chromium.
Actually, you do monitor for chromium because I had to show my water tests. So I'm shocked that you don't know that, Rear Admiral. Disappointed.
So clarification that anything that we do in the house is the drinking water. In the Red Hill shaft, which is where this is located, and the groundwater monitoring that we do around the Red Hill is groundwater monitoring. So it's different sampling, different tests, different analytes, and so forth. We don't have chromium, to my knowledge, in the groundwater monitoring program, which is what we're talking about with respect to tank cleaning and closure.
Keimani, you had a question?
Mine is simple. What was in the sludge that you removed? Did you guys do testing on the sludge? And what is that available online where we can look at what was in there?
So we have done the waste characterization of the sludge that's been removed. It was all non-hazardous. With regards to getting those eventually, as those reports are submitted to the regulators and signed off on the regulators, they'll be posted on our website.
Oh, they are posted on your website?
They will be.
Oh, it will be, okay. Where did you take the sludge after you removed it?
So the sludge was containerized and then ultimately taken back to continental U.S. For disposal.
Where in the continental U.S.?
I believe it was a facility, an EPA certified facility in Utah.
Okay. And then one last question about the foam that you're gonna be filling the pipes with. What's in the foam?
Sure, so the foam is an alternative that we put in supplement for as we look forward for alternate ways to close certain sections of pipeline or certain sinks, etc. The foam is a hardset foam that is used in Europe that we found. We're working with the regulators to provide again, we've done the demo to demonstrate its usefulness, and then again, from a tech memo standpoint, compiling all that to get to the regulators for consideration. But it would be used in areas of the facility that present significant risk to worker safety when trying to remove, or risk to like infrastructure that's in place when we're trying to remove certain sections of pipeline.
What's the name of the foam?
The commercial name is called Avibro. I believe we can get that. But I think it's AVIGROW. I think, if I remember right. I'm trying to remember the spelling.
Okay, thank you. If you can just send that to us, thanks.
The CRI.
Bill has a question.
Bill?
There we go. Okay, thank you. Yes, I had just a few follow-up questions with regard to sampling. And part of that was brought up with the sludge. But in addition to water, you need to be able to test soil because the soil can be contaminated too, so there should be a multi-pronged testing operation in the future. Secondly, this is a concern I have, is as we know, as everybody knows, EPA and all these other government agencies are being cut back. And according to the President of the United States, he wants to cut back on a lot of these requirements for environmental safety. So I'm praying that you don't see any of those come down. We hope and pray that that doesn't happen. Thank you.
Hey, Lonnie, did you have a question?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Melanie, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, are any of the tanks slated for accelerated closure due to heightened contaminated risk?
No. What do you mean by accelerated closure? I mean, we have a set schedule, we have a process that we tackle each tanks, and we have an integrated master schedule that lays that out. There's no tanks that have been changing plans. So sorry, I'm confused by the question.
Oh, okay, well, let me just kind of clarify this. Based on some of the research I've done, it has indicated that tanks 13, 14, 17, and 18 are prioritized due to historical sludge accumulation and structural concerns.
So tanks 13, you said 13, 14, 17, 18?
Yeah.
So 13, 14, 17, 18 have already gone through the clean, inspect, repair process and were never put back in use. So those have all been previously cleaned. and were never refilled and never put back into use. So with, regards to how those were going to be closed, we still have to work with EPA and DOH to figure out the best way forward to cleanly document the condition they're in, and that they have remained petroleum-free. And so if that's what you mean by accelerated closure, but those are never had fuel in them after they were taken out of service, a decade plus ago.
Okay. Let's see, now the risk of vapor intrusion and groundwater leaching during deconstruction, and how is that mitigated?
That would help as far as, the context behind your question.
Okay, like are you involved in sub-slab depressurization system, real-time vapor monitoring, groundwater well expansion around the facility? Is all these methods being implemented?
Yep, we continue to do passive soil vapor monitoring below the tanks. We have a robust groundwater monitoring program, which we are not discontinuing anytime soon. We continue to add more wells to that network of groundwater monitoring, both at Redhill and Sentinel wells off property. And we're also sampling at a very high frequency to pay very close attention if there's any change in conditions across those groundwater monitoring wells. So we sample twice a month right now. Standard is quarterly for groundwater monitoring. So we do both of those with respect to monitoring the environmental conditions at the facility.
Any third-party follow-up sampling done that's more unbiased?
Well, we use EPA certified methods and we use an EPA certified lab. DOH and EPA, they are welcome to do split sampling as their authority as regulators imply. But we do not have a third party conducting groundwater or desampling and monitoring at the site.
Okay, final question regarding the piping. I heard you're going to fill it with a foam. Is the piping then triple rinse protocol for this inaccessible piping? Is that done before it is filled?
So the first thing we do with the pipeline is you'll hear the term pigging.
Pigging.
Yes, so it's fancy term. But the pigging essentially is, think of it as like running a squeegee through the pipes to push all the accumulated fuel, the trapped fuel that is in there. And so we actually begin pigging operations next week. So the pipeline is first fully pigged until it's squeaky clean, right? So you continue to run these large foam cylinders through either push or pull process until essentially the pipe squeaks and it's squeaky clean, all right? And then you push air through it, air dries, and then again, we'll for the vast majority of the 10 miles of pipeline, it will be removed, it will be cut out. And so part of that is you've got to bring a marine chemist in to certify, right, that there's not any sort of explosive, anything that's safe for them to work on. So there's that process. But with regards to the film alternative, that is going to be used on a very conditional basis. That is still to be determined, right? We put that in supplement 4 to be proactive in identifying it as an alternative, but it is not intended to replace or remove, as these, hey, we're not going to remove them, we're just going to foam them. We are removing the vast majority of the pipeline. What we are looking for is alternatives that keep in mind worker safety as we look at certain as these pipes twist and turn, is realized one of these 10-foot sections of pipe is over a half a ton. Right, and some of these are overhead work and so forth, so we're looking at ways to say, hey, is there a smarter way to do this than putting somebody's life at risk as they try to remove it?
So inaccessible, then you're still accessing it by pigging it. Right?
Correct. You're pushing. Think of the foam on the end of it, right? You're pushing that, and if that thing is air driven, it's push or pull, right? You can make the twists and turns to get around those corners.
Thank you.
Marty?
For the groundwater monitoring that you're doing, Ben twice a month. Thank you very much for doing that. Are you testing for the same contaminants that the Board of Water Supply is testing for?
I'm not sure whether we're testing exactly the same, but what we are testing for is closely coordinated with EPA and DOH, and they ultimately decide what that is. But it is a pretty robust group of analytes pertaining to fuel-related compounds.
Okay, so if a regulator like the Department of Health asks the Navy to test for the same contaminants that the Board of Water Supply is testing for, you would do it?
I think, yes, it would involve a discussion about what some Navy policy as the basis of that groundwater monitoring. A lot of groundwater monitoring that the Board of Water Supply does is due to pesticides, which we don't have a history of at Red Hill, so there's no purpose to monitor for some of those analytes at that location. So it would be a discussion, but it would be a long one with EPA and DOH.
Okay, thank you.
Leah, Lisa? I was wondering, like I ask every time, can the CRI members do a site visit?
So again, we got active operations and it's an active industrial facility. And so, you know, the short answer, again, you want transparency, I'll be brutally honest at this time now.
You know, I got to have a site visit at Red Hill while it was actively being used. And I really think that we, in terms of like rebuilding trust, you know, to quote my favorite president, Ronald Reagan said, "Trust but verify." You know, come on, all right? There's no way we trust you guys now. You're cutting us off. You know, you won't let Ernie sit on the table. You won't let Mandy speak at the table. You know, this is like undermining trust. And so doing things that help to build trust, like allowing us to verify with our own eyes and see that all of the stacks of pipe that has been pulled out, for example, would be really beneficial to your cause.
So I will say, so we are doing a LiDAR study. One of those things there is to document current state and then eventually document final state, to your point, so that people can visualize it and see it. But recognizing, right, it is an industrial site, and we've got a lot of different things going on simultaneously to include erosion control and other things. And it's not practical this time to host visitors.
Bill had his hand up. I don't know if it's still up, I can't see. No? Hey Lonnie, your question?
Yeah. Are you folks informing the residents that move into housing on your water distribution line about the Red Hill spill and what happened, and that there is a risk of drinking the water from the faucet? Are you doing that?
We do have as part of the drinking water information program, we do attend many of the assemblies, newcomers assemblies, some of the other forums that the Joint Base puts on a regular basis. We also go out in those neighborhoods. We do have a resource guide that we disseminate, and I believe at one point,
yeah, there's a housing handbook that all new residents get, and as part of the remediation reaction to the release, an enclosure was added to the handbook that informs all residents upon check-in. I can only speak for Navy housing and those in that distribution system, but you know, it's hard when you have public-private venture housing and a third party, a private business running something. And so we leverage all the power we have as a naval institution to give them that information. We provide them that information, and they have been receptive of that and put it in their handbook to notify all residents upon check-in. It's something they're given when they go to the Housing Welcome Center, and it's something they can maintain or call and ask questions about based off the information provided therein.
So all the housing on the line are being given this information?
No.
They're given it when they check in and they go to the Housing Welcome Center. There's a handbook that they're given. It's a closure or appendix. I'm not sure the correct verbiage, but they are given that.
Okay. I just did a water drop in near some of your housing, and a lot of families were not informed of the Red Hill spill. So I'm sure doesn't seem. I mean, what you're saying doesn't seem to be fitting with what I'm hearing from the community.
Yeah, I can only tell you that provided that information then, but in addition to that information, for instance, over the next 9 weeks, we have over 15 engagement events across the entire distribution system to include neighborhood boards, community association meetings, we have town halls that the joint base holds. We have all of our public facing events in accordance with regulators. Ben went through that long list, and so we flood the entire atmosphere with information in addition with that handbook. I recognize when you get a handbook, sometimes when you're doing a PCS move and you get that handbook, you're like, great, and you put it on the shelf and you get back to unpacking your boxes. Totally understand that, which is why we take other means and methods. Our app, our vodcasts, our weekly Red Hill updates. So we do everything we can to add to what the housing private venture person puts out. We definitely ensure that we do our best and use every resource we have to inform the public.
Are you giving them filters for their water? I know that there were families that reported, I did report to the EPA. I don't know if you got the email, but there were families that we did encourage that were having issues with their water about a month ago. And they did report it to the Department of Health as well, and I had them report it to you folks. And one of them did tell me that they were getting a case of water or something, and you guys did do that. But my concern here is, are you letting families know that their water may not be safe to drink? Is that, I mean, because you can go to as many public meetings as you want to, but if you're not sharing that information, like there was a spill, that there may be residual fuel in the pipes weren't replaced. So are you informing families like that? I mean, just depends on how you're telling them, you know?
We inform and respond to consumer inquiries and concerns about the drinking water. But the 16,000 samples we've taken over the past 3.5 years all indicate that the water is safe and meets standards. But we continue that service for residences, where we will respond and conduct
We recently tried to
sampling
put
of the
together
individual.
a fact sheet. I know that you've requested this in the past, and you actually have it up near the front. Is meant kind of geared towards that and has a history. You know, our assessment is that based on the samples, we haven't seen fuel, and so it does indicate that. But it has a little bit of that history, and if that's something that's helpful to distribute, you know, you guys can take some, and we have a digital version as well.
And one last question about the supplement 4. So is there a post-closure tank monitoring plan? I mean, and what are the risks after closure?
So yeah, it's in the works. It's part of that post-closure design working group, is to establish what is, again, how do we go back in and validate the material and monitor the material condition of the tanks. And so that is all to be worked out. That's why I talked about that design working group, is to flush those details out of what's required, what's the frequency and cadence at which you need to go in and visually inspect each tank, and so forth.
Are the questions related, for the people who have their hands up, related to this topic, the closure plan supplement? Okay. I have Mia Lisa, then I have Susan, and then Michelle and Jamie, if we can get those in. But those, we'll go in that order and try and get in as many questions as we can.
I just wanted to reiterate for the site visit, the National Academies team visited in June, so why can't we? And this could have been direct knowledge from Mandy. As a team, we know this, that we can, so why aren't we able to?
Correct. So we scrutinize heavily for the use of our mission, closure and decommissioning, and they were congressionally mandated to provide a report based off of health effects. And so they had a genuine purpose to attend to provide that report to Congress. It was a congressional requirement to do so. That being said, the industrial environment continues, operating both upper and lower tunnel. And so if congressionally required, that's a separate story than a non-regulator entity wishing to get eyeballs on the facility. A facility which is being closed and decommissioned under the purview of federally mandated and state regulators who provide not only their own expertise, but that of industry standard experts. And so that's our guiding principle for access to facility. Those that are in purpose of our mission for closure and decommission, and providing general scientific-based or government-mandated approach.
So we would need Congress approval, basically.
For a genuine purpose, apparently we're not genuine enough.
Okay.
Susan? Hi, yes, I have a quick question for Captain McCormick. My apologies, I don't understand military speak. When you say that people are informed upon check-in, is that before or after they've signed a lease?
Probably around the same time. So I don't know the process by which, I'm talking minutes or hours. So you go in and you go in and say, I need a house. And you go on a waiting list. While you're on your waiting list, you wait and say, oh, we have a house for you. Here, come get your house. At some point, you're given the full documentation, inspection checklist, I'm talking out of turn. I may be wrong about the exact process, but in that process, you were given the housing handbook, which includes an enclosure and appendix that kind of covers the background about the release, and I think provides information regarding the medical clinic, the Red Hill Clinic as well. So if there are issues, it gives you exactly where to go, how to get there. It provides background information, and it also provides links to all the various resources we provide, the app, the website, Safe Waters, all of that.
I understand, yeah. I guess my point is, if I were moving in, I would like to know long before check-in, from what you're describing, so I could make an informed decision.
You have that opportunity to turn down a house once you're given information, so you have plenty of opportunity to make a decision based off the information you receive. You're not forced into a house and you give the information later. It's provided to you beforehand.
All right, I'm also asked to ask about in-dock briefing.
Yeah,
In-dock briefing.
that's before we move into our
Correct.
baby home start.
So the in-dock is actually handled by the Joint Base, and I don't want to speak to that. They do in-dock, I think periodically. I don't know how often that is. It probably is the best practice to include that in there, and to your point, if it's not already done so. But again, I don't know the agenda or the curriculum of the in-dock. I'll take that back and we'll inform them as well.
Thank you.
We have 2 minutes left, and then it's time for the next agenda item is CRI's comments and updates. So it looks like I'm only going to have time for, Michelle had her hand up, but it doesn't look like it's up anymore, but Jamie's is still up. So Jamie, your question?
I just want to note that Bill South got booted from the Zoom, and he is actively trying to rejoin if there's anything that can be done to help him do that.
Thanks.
Jamie?
We'll be quick. When were these handbooks created and distributed? What was the date?
I don't have an exact date. I do know it's standard practice that a housing handbook was put out. I would have to refer to Ohana Hunt Military Communities and or the Housing Center. That's something they probably maintain, but I do know that an enclosure and appendix was added to that resource immediately after the release or therein to inform residents ahead of their housing choice.
Okay, that is exactly what I wanted to get to. Have these handbooks been updated? Because, we went for years saying that there was only 10 days of exposure, and that this was not that big of a deal. So we're now 4 years past, we now have 3 DOD-IG inspector reports. We also have AdStar. We have the Red Hill Registry starting. As you mentioned, NASA is doing their study as well for Congress. Has all of that information been added, as well as the proper amount of time? We now know about May. We also know that there was July, August, I believe October and September of 2021. That families were affected. So we now, we have DOH admitting subacute and acute exposure, which brings us up to at least a year of exposure. Is all of that information added into the handbooks in order to, let alone the previous exposures? I will always talk about that. Has that been added to the handbooks in order to truly educate the families moving in?
So, well, I can't speak to the specifics of the Joint Base, the OMC handbook. What I can say is it provides the resources that give weekly updates or more if required, such as the Red Hill Weekly, our podcasts, our multiple neighborhood boards, our multiple community station boards, FTAC, CWORM, Red Hill Remediation Roundtable, our quarterly open houses, CRI, if you will, and many other instances where we provide that information that is much more current than, say, a handbook that maybe is at the whim of a publisher to get out on a recurring basis. So we ensure that we provide that real-time access to information via kind of links and other more modern types of information processing to ensure that the residents have that as needed.
So I'll just offer to access those websites, because even affected family members that don't know to access all those websites. So now that we're 4 years later and we have more data in front of us, would it not behoove the Navy to update those handbooks?
I'll just offer, this has been a recurring topic, and it's clearly very important that maybe we can nominate it as a discussion. We kind of sidetracked on something before, and I know we're running out of time, but I'd say, it seems to be one that we circle back to, and it'd be good to have an organized discussion maybe at the next meeting and prioritize that.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask, I know that the Navy has a protocol about not answering the questions from the public, but when Bill does finally get back online and has questions about Supplement 4, and specifically he wants to ask about the risk-based approach decision making, can he have a Q&A with the military during the public comment process? He says he's trying to get back on and it's not letting him in.
Yeah, so a couple things is, one, we can always, you guys can submit written comments, but the other thing is maybe we can save time before the public comments if you guys want to do your updates quick. I know these.
Yeah. You have 8 minutes to do your topic, because I have to get to the public comments by 7:30.
Okay. Jamie, do you want to make the announcements? The first, go ahead.
Go ahead if you want to play the registry video, if they have that, or audio.
Yeah.
Or do you just want it?
You guys have that ready to go?
Yeah, give me a second to pull it up.
Go ahead with the other ones while they're doing that.
Okay, NASM, as we discussed, did come out. Let me pull up my email very quickly, because Mandy is also going to speak on that, since we both are on the board for that. They did come out. I did get an update from Liz Boyle. They're drafting their report for the peer review this fall. The committee can consider information from the public until this report is published, which will be in March of 2026. However, the most effective if that information is received in the data gathering phase, which will end in September. So any affected families that would like to submit their information, please do so. It will be ending in September 29th and September 30th of this year. As you've heard, the Navy said that this is something that's been deemed by Congress and is very important in assessing the affected families and how to treat us furtherly, so we do not continue to get it notated in our records that this is all in our heads or attempted to. We also have the secretarial designation letter that has come out for families that have been affected, or also for anybody that lived on the water line or worked on the water line. I am currently using the secretarial designation letter. There are a lot of hiccups to it, but push through. I'm an hour and a half away from a facility, and it doesn't even have all of the capabilities. And again, it's not known nationally what happened at Red Hill, even in our military facilities. But it is worth the testing and being seen, as long as you get honest and accurate doctors that look at your true medical records. But you have to be your best advocate in bringing your documentation and continue the fight. I do call and ask that the DOD and the Navy consider extending this designation letter, because there are a lot of us that are still affected, and that this will truly impact and help us maintain our health. Sorry, my lungs again.
Okay, I just have a question, Jamie, just to clarify. So if somebody who, regardless of whether they are in the military or not, they can take this letter and go to, say, the Red Hill Clinic and be seen, right? Because part of the problem is the civilians couldn't be seen at Red Hill Clinic before, right? So this letter helps to overcome some of those administrative hurdles.
From what I am understanding and from what the letter states, as long as as somebody can prove that they either lived or worked on the water line at the time of the spill, yes, they can take it to the Red Hill Clinic or any military facility, and this letter is good until the end of February, beginning of March of 2026. It will come up for review to see if it is going to be extended, which we hope and pray that it does, because there are families that are getting help or individuals that are getting help or have had more diagnoses because their care stopped altogether for whatever reason when they got out of the military or their spouse got out of the military or they left the island. So yes, from my understanding, that is exactly how it works and it is beneficial.
Thank you. Do we have the?
You have the video ready to go?
Save the date. If you experience the Red Hill water crisis, the Red Hill Registry is here to listen and connect you to vital resources and important information. Celebrate the launch of the Red Hill Registry with us during our community fair on Saturday, August 2nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Moanalua High School, 2825 Iulai Street, Honolulu, Hawaii 96818. It's a day for our community to learn how the Red Hill Registry can support you and your loved ones. For more information, call 808-427-8260, or you can email info@redhillregistry.org. You can visit our website at www.redhillregistry.org.
Okay, are there any other updates or announcements? Okay, thank you. We're gonna move to the public comment portion of the agenda. So we'll have comments for 30 minutes. Speakers with questions and comments that are within the scope will be invited up to speak for up to 2 minutes in order that we receive. And just so that we're clear, attending members from the CRI, the Navy, EPA, or DLA will not provide responses at this meeting, but we will take comments. Thank you.
Okay, at this time I'll bring up the first speaker, Davey Ann MT, who's going to talk about affected family Davey housing.
Can you say who's on deck so that they can, the next two speakers as well, so they're prepared?
The next speaker on deck will be Kamala.
Aloha mai kako. I'm Davey Ann Momilani Thomas. I'm born and raised from Oahu. I was a Navy wife for less than a little of 20 years. I actually lived in military Navy housing within 20 years to date. I helped lead, because thanks to the Navy, volunteer efforts for our military community within my 20 years. And I was coordinator, so I did a lot for our military community. I actually feel, and I'm not trying to be an ego or disrespectful, but I actually feel my neighborhood watch for Pearl City Peninsula Navy housing was much more successful than what the Navy senior leaderships has ever done to our military community. To speak about the water quality report that came out in July 2025 into our emails from Ohana Hunt Portal through the Navy. There were residents that were very concerned about that, brand new residents. And there were residents who were brand new after the 2021 spill. And they knew they were affected by such. I was the one that sounded the alarm for Pearl City Peninsula in December 2021. I didn't want to believe it, but I do now. I remember when I ran the neighborhood watch in 2019, when we were fighting for our gate guards for McGrew Officer Housing and Peninsula, because I knew my neighborhood watch was going to be hard work for me, which it was, taking our gate guards away. A captain wife stood up in September 2019 on Pearl Harbor, holding up the front page of our Hawaii newspaper Star Bulletin and then said, "What are you all doing to all the Navy senior leaderships then to gaslighting and hiding from our general public here on this island and from our military community when it comes to Red Hill?"
Thank you.
So I just had to mention, there's a lot more to mention. Thank you.
Aloha, my name is Camilla Ayu. I am a community member. I grew up in Wailupe. I lived in Colorado. I'm home. I came home to the Red Hill spill. I have 20 years of community facilitation experience, helping people navigate hard conversations in the nonprofit sector. And I want to talk a little bit about what happened when we first started the meeting. Because when you come into a meeting and you bring information that you have another spill and that you are silencing a member of the community's ability, Mandy, to be a part of this process, you are re-traumatizing the community. And so a good facilitator needs to understand the audience. They need to be able to pivot their agenda to make sure that we can establish trust with you as facilitators, as well as you who are trying to help us mitigate a tragedy. Jamie, I'm sorry, I can't read your last name from here, so, but I appreciate that you brought up the humanity of the fact that you left your family today, because we're all human beings here, and we're all impacted by this. My drinking water, I'm afraid of my drinking water. And so I also wanted to talk to you, Ben, because we met at Kupuna Council. You with Brada from Kamehameha Schools, I can't remember his name. You folks came in and you talked to us about the testing. And you also let me know that, and I asked you to come back to us, because it takes 2 weeks for those samples to be tested. And in the meanwhile, we're drinking that water for 2 weeks. And so I'm gonna reiterate the question I asked you that day, which is, why aren't we testing locally? You guys told me that there was funds that came to UH to do local testing so that we have rapid testing and results back so that we can feel safe and we can feel like we trust you. So I'm gonna ask you again to come back with that.
Your 2 minutes.
Don't cut her off.
We established that each speaker gets up to 2 minutes.
You didn't cut off Ben when he went over.
You know,
Okay?
and I think that's part of the facilitation. And I'm asking, you know what, and I'm almost done, I am almost done, but I think it's really important that you establish trust by allowing people to be heard. And because what you're doing with, you know, the military knows PTSD, and the community knows PTSD, and we need you folks to know PTSD. Do you understand?
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
We've established that it's up to 2 minutes per speaker.
And trauma-informed
I
cares.
understand, and
Yes.
what I'm trying to do, if you'll let me explain, is that we establish the rules so that everyone who has the same opportunity to speak.
I understand, and trauma-informed facilitation requires that you acknowledge what I just said. That's what it is.
Okay.
So acknowledge me, so that we can
sharing,
stop.
and that you would like more time to speak.
I actually am done. Because I'm emotionally frustrated now, which means I've been triggered. So when you are a trauma-informed facilitator, you'd know that, and you would hold a moment for us to take a collective deep breath and then speak again. Thank you for your time.
So the next two speakers will be in person, and then we'll go ahead and go online. So the next speaker, if we can have Malia M., who's going to be talking about the quality of the Vai, and then next we'll go with Eric B., who wanted to talk about the Vai and community voices.
Aloha, e nā wahine, mahalo nui no kauleo I kia manawa. I sit here and I listen to all this parts here and trillion here, and I am no scientist. But I am Kanaka. I know where I come from. And I know before you guys came here, we had zero. There was no parts to parts of our fight. And you gotta acknowledge that when you come to our aina. Because now we have an EPA that stands for Environmental Protection Agency. This is our EPA right over here. I'm an EPA right here. We are kia'i of this aina. We know how to clean it up. We know how to malama. And I very much know that there is zero quality of anything, PFAS, whatever it is, before you guys got here. We had the cleanest water of my home. I look at you guys and I don't know if you understand that you're still visitors here. I don't know if you comprehend that, but we will be here. My Mokupuni will be here. My generations on and on when you guys go home. And then what? Your 50-year thingy goes berserk, and then my keiki and my Mokupuni gotta clean up again. Come over here and facilitate this kind with the EPA telling us how many minutes we get to talk. Who gets to talk? Guys, but remember where you guys are from too. If you have your immigrant people that have been here for generations, and you guys should be actually understanding us. Doesn't matter if you're Hawaiian or not. Our farmers know aina, our fishermen know aina. That's all I got to say, but it's kind of shame you degrade people. I'm not here to be degraded, especially on my own aina. And when it's time to clean up again, I know exactly who's gonna be on our aina to clean it.
My name is Sadiq Blanco, and I'm speaking on behalf of my Auntie Mandy and also Auntie Dee. You guys continue to dig yourself in a hole. Sanity, one of our main advocates, was the wrong move. You guys are Heaven, and she's federal employees and represents the same organization as you. But she's one of only service members this community and our Native people trust. You guys messed up and our community won't forget it. You're not renewing land leases, making moves like this. If you treat your own like this, how are you guys gonna treat us?
Okay, so next two speakers are going to be online, and the next speaker is going to be Mandy F., who is going to be talking about agenda items for tonight, and then we'll have Tracy C., who wanted to talk about community aina and the Vai.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
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 Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Marty, can any of you guys?
Go ahead,
Yes.
Mandy,
Yes,
can
we
you
can
hear
hear
us? Go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you now. Well, I appreciate my fellow CRI members and the people in the community coming to my defense. It's not their job. The same community that you, Navy, are trying to rebuild trust with the sole purpose of renewing land leases is the same community who nominated and voted me on this board. You continue, as someone previously stated, to dig yourself in a hole. When you treat your own, how will you treat them? EPA, I'm 0% surprised by your decision to strong arm and silence impacted families tonight. You've not had a backbone since the beginning of this water crisis. It's only fitting that you decided to grow one now. You've not once held the Navy accountable for breaking the actual terms of this consent order, including when they no-showed in December of 2024, when, as Marty pointed out, I publicly accepted the terms of the new ground rules that you guys came up with in private mediation without us. Moreover, as an active duty military officer who has sworn an oath to defend the Constitution, I'm well acquainted with my legal and constitutional rights when it comes to signing any document. You are also tracking that I've been a Red Hill DoD whistleblower and have faced gross retaliation from members of both of your organizations for the past 3.5 years. Let me be clear that no amount of intimidation, discrimination, and maltreatment from any of you will silence me. Just like I told Admiral Paparo at his confirmation hearing, I'm not going anywhere. I will continue to use every national platform that's been made available to me to continue to advocate for the service members you poisoned, betrayed, and left behind, and for the civilian and Native Hawaiian population that you somehow believe that you can treat like collateral damage. Jamie, the conversation that you had with our team prior to the start of this meeting that went public was recorded. The part where you trashed me and the Navy will be on Lee Zeldin's desk tomorrow morning and played out in the news. Last, you want to rebuild trust in hearts and minds, you have to start with being transparent. That was clearly made evident to you by the DoD IG reports. You are the water purveyor. The DoD IG said that you failed at transparency. The Hawaii Department of Health does not get paid to do your dirty work or communicate on your behalf. You must notify residents, every single one of them. They must understand that the pipes and the hot water heaters have not been replaced. Continue to put innocent people's lives at risk.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Who's the next speaker? Hālawa.
The next speaker is Tracy Contreras, who's going to talk about community, Aina, and the Vai.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so we talked about the pipes. I just wanted to say that I lived on Ohio Municipal. I know all about the pipes. I know all about being sick. My family's sick. My family there is sick. I may have left Hawaii, but my heart is there. You, Amy, Mandy, all of you there. I love you guys so much. You know, as an impacted community member, I remained in contact with my second family, my Red Hill family. See, shame on you guys for not letting Mandy talk sooner. And you know, we voted for her, and she has a year, the community, and the people of Hawaii. And you know, I don't feel like we've been represented in this meeting tonight because you silenced her, and you silenced so many of us. Now 123 now. How are you ever going to build trust? You guys, seriously, how are you ever going to build trust? You didn't even let Ernie, you didn't allow him to speak because he's in a lawsuit. It's just not a valid excuse. There are 4 members of the CRI who have filed lawsuit against the Navy. And you know, you guys think you're going to get these land leases acting like this? Breaks my heart. It just really breaks my heart. People are still on that water. You guys are telling them that it is safe to drink. You guys flushed my house, told me it was safe to drink. And it was spiraling a rainbow of, I don't even know what that shit was. So I'm gonna tell you this. You're never, never, never gonna build trust with the people, this island of Hawaii. No one's gonna trust you. You're not gonna do this whole transparency thing, it's crap. So this is why no one trusts you. You don't let us speak. You're not really transparent. You're gonna build these new books. What are you gonna put in them? You're gonna put the truth, which is more lies. I don't believe you. Thank you so much.
So the next speaker is Tara R., who's going to talk about buy-in accountability, and then Ernie, who's going to talk about CERCLA PFAS investigation at Red Hill.
Aloha. Well, this is my public oral declaration for the record, redhillCRI meeting. O Tara Rojas Ko'uinoa. I testify under penalty of perjury that the following is true to the best of my knowledge, understanding, and belief. I speak not just as a resident, but as a protector of this aina. Let me be crystal clear. This entire process rests on contradictions and bad faith. You boast of transparency, yet when families demanded water buffaloes when I advocated for them at one of your Navy open house meetings, you deflected. You held people as your greatest asset, yet our communities remain ill. Your own families remain ill. Our pipes corroded, their pipes corroded, and their hot water heaters unreplaced, and still you propose to reopen contaminated wells. You poison us. You continue to poison us, and your own documents confirm it. According to the Department of Defense Inspector General's November 18, 2024 report, approximately 19 gallons of fuel, JP5 fuel, remained in an overhead pipeline from May to November 2021 without detection or reporting, directly contaminating the Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam water system due to the Navy's failure to follow its own incident response and reporting protocols. Your draft EA concedes that tanks were coated for decades with zinc chromate, a recognized carcinogen, and under Black's Law Dictionary 5th edition, yet you refuse to test for chromium absent in arbitrary exceedance. That is egregious malfeasance, bordering on criminal negligence, not mere oversight. Your coating is left in place for 50 years, and you admit many tanks remain in dilapidated condition. No one should be judged in his own cause. That's a Roman maxim. This is not closure, it's cover up. You spilled another 300 gallons just last month. You have not remediated the Pearl Harbor Superfund site. You maintain RABs for ocean contamination. The Navy refuses even to compensate the Board of Water Supply. They had to sue to force payment. You proclaim a permanent closure, yet your timeline extends to 2028 with provisions for beneficial reuse. Beneficial for whom? Not for the people of Hawaii, only for military contracts.
Thank you.
Almost out. Where is the raw truth? We're not your training ground. We're not your dumping ground. You've reached your fiduciary duty to safeguard life, health, and the environment under the public trust doctrine recognized by the U.S. Constitution and reaffirmed in United States versus Lee. No person is above the law. All obligations to protect natural resources must be honored. By maxims of law, he who does not repel a wrong when he can induces it. A wrongdoer is not to be trusted in his own cause. I'm almost called, this is my public order declaration. Furthermore, if you have the power to introduce these toxins, you possess the power and the obligation to remove them. Any justification for refusal proves you should never have permitted their use. Your continued operations and denials are not merely unethical, they're complicit in ongoing harm. We see through the facade of your EA, your data spins, your delay tactics, your greenwash rhetoric. Clean up, pack up, and leave. This testimony stands as a matter of public record and notice. I reserve all rights without prejudice under UCC 1308. Leases up 2020-29. Mahalo.
Aloha, Ernie Lau from the Honolulu Board of Water Supply. I just want to thank the EPA for setting this opportunity to testify tonight. I just want to bring to the attention of the CRI members and also the community. There is I think, a bigger story to tell about PFAS investigations at Red Hill. I think Admiral Williams kind of mentioned that it is under another part of the Navy. There is a website that's set up that's a good source for information, redhillERN.com, redhillERN.com. Environmental Restoration Navy Program at Red Hill. And in their website, they'll talk about the next Restoration Advisory Board meeting, which is usually held here, will be held on August 27th. So if you want to learn more about what's happening there under the base commander, which is not Admiral Williams, but come to the RAB meeting on August 27th and use that as an opportunity to learn more about not only Red Hill contamination, but the contamination issues on the entire Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam. I'll close on this. Some of the PFAS results in a short summary here at the Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam Safe Waters website. For shallow groundwater, PFOA range from 0.16 ppt to 29. PFOS was 0.12 to 69 parts per trillion. And in deep groundwater, PFOA was detected up to non-detect to 8.1 ppt. PFOS non-detect to 19 parts per trillion. And remember, for those two, PFOA and PFOS, the MCL in the recently adopted National Drinking Water Primary Standards is 4 ppt, and then we'll have to meet that as utilities by 2029.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have Joyce, who wants to talk about the closure plan supplement 4, and then we have Susan PD, who wants to talk about closure supplement 4 and NHPA.
Aloha, good evening. I am Joyce with the Honolulu Board of Water Supply, and I just have a few questions about the latest closure plan supplement 4. And I was wondering, has a geotechnical study been conducted to assess the long-term environmental and structural impact of leaving tanks in the ground, emptied, closed in place? The latest closure plan mentions a long-term structural integrity plan of the redhill underground storage tank issued May 26th of 2023. So I was just wondering where I can find a copy of this report. And then also the closure plan, supplemental 4, also mentions about abandoning 10% of the total length of the redhill bulk fuel storage facility pipelines in place by filling it with a hard set foam, which absorbs and encapsulates residual fuel and water. And I just want to mention that 10% of 10 miles of pipeline is 1 mile, or 5,280 feet of pipelines with residual fuel that will remain underground above our drinking water aquifer.
There shouldn't be any residual fuel because they're going to clean it up.
It was in the plan itself.
I know, the plan says that this foam is going to absorb fuel.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any fuel there to absorb.
Yeah, so can you please provide also just additional chemical information about this hard set foam and what's in it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a long night. I'm just going to be not asking questions, but bringing up things from Supplement 4. I wish I had something. To ensure that Department of Health and the EPA comments to Supplement 4 are made available someplace, because the collation of the documents has not been being done very well anymore. It was like in the beginning we were able to see the documentation, but now it's a fishing expedition, so this may even already be out there, but I can't find it. And then on section 2.2, page 9, the National Historic Preservation Act is being mentioned, and all activities towards closure are not going to be, will continue to be prioritized over section 106. However, it offers a question mark for me as to the what if. What if it is determined to be under the Historic Preservation Act? I'm not asking for an answer, it's just one of my things revolving around in my head. And one more thing, but I gotta put something down. There. Page 30 of the Supplement 4, To answer the question about chromium, another planned engineering control is to test all tank effluent for chromium, a component of coating primers used in the first 2 legacy coating systems inside the Redhill underground storage tanks. And my purpose is to usually go through these things with a fine-tooth comb, and that's what I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it, okay. That concludes all of the public comments that we had. And thank you for coming, everyone, and have a good evening.
I'm very disappointed in how this meeting went. The fact that we was in the Zoom, the fact that Mandy wasn't allowed to participate, the fact that Ernie wasn't allowed to participate. And the fact that the agenda that the Navy set up, we lost whatever, 15, 20 minutes at the beginning on a topic that they were not able to answer. Like, the expectations here are not being met. I regret signing ground.
Other things, I don't know
You're welcome.
See you later. Oh,
Thank you later.
There were some, and I'll say I.
Keep our water safe.
I'm trying.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, so tonight's meeting was a travesty. In the beginning, they would not let an elected CRI member, Mandy Fint, take her seat. What happened last year was the Navy did not attend any CRI meetings for over 7 months. And when they finally did decide to come back, it was only after they amended, along with the EPA and the DLM, after they amended the consent order to shut down Redhill. In the amendment, they pretty much just made us like a community group that they listed as one of the community people that they're gonna consult with. I mean, they didn't even use the word consult. It was just basically they just have to meet with us once a quarter. And we were forced to sign ground rules. But before that, we were supposed to meet with them in December. They decided not to come, but we did agree to the ground rules verbally under protest. But because we feel like the information that they're providing tonight is super important, we did agree to it. And then they sent us the ground rules in writing. We signed it. The way Mandy Fint signed it wasn't acceptable to them. So what happened was they basically tried to kick her off the redhillCRI. Her name is still on the website. We did advocate for that. But she's not allowed to take a seat on the redhillCRI. And her voice as a affected family member, both her and her husband were poisoned and her 2 small children. She is in the military. She's active military. She was not allowed to say anything tonight as a CRI member or take a seat, and that was what we were trying to push for in the beginning of the meeting. We did go forward with the meeting again. We feel like the information that we are trying to get from the Navy and from the EPA is important. But this type of actions, amending the consent order, making us sign ground rules, getting a third-party facilitator, and then now deciding when or how we sign, whether it's acceptable or not, and deciding who gets to sit in the redhillCRI is unacceptable. And we are very, very discouraged by that. Talk about trying to build trust. This is not building trust when they silence a family member of, well, a member of the CRI and someone who was poisoned. And then their leases are up. And I just literally went to their lease hearings in Kauai, well, one of them, and I watched the other two online. And the whole time they're saying, oh, we want to work with the community, we want to hear what the community has to say, blah, blah, blah. Their leases are up in 2029 for PMRF, the Pacific Missile Range facility on West Kauai. So they're telling us one thing at these missile hearings, PMRF hearings, to retain 8,000 acres, over 3,000 acres of stolen Hawaiian lands. We want to work with the community. We work with the community. We advocate for, access, this and that. And then here in the redhillCRI meeting, they're silencing a very important voice, someone who was duly elected into the CRI. And that is absolutely unacceptable. I didn't know what to do next. I just was hoping they would do the right thing tonight and let Mandy speak. Anybody else want to say anything? Oh, Kumela, did you want to say something? Can you talk about trauma-informed facilitation?
What should I say?
Just talk about how this is not trauma-informed facilitation.
I think when you're working with community that's been traumatized, it's really important to know what their trauma triggers might be so that you can anticipate the emotions. And if you are going to deliver news of another spill after we've had multiple spills, it's really important to make sure that you prepare for time for the reaction of that news for people who've already been traumatized with that.
For the live?
I know it's live. Just say something. Hey everybody.
Live, yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. That's what it is. We all know.
Marty want to say?
I think Marty wanted to
I should ask who I'm talking to.
Yeah, Marty's she's in her warrior mode right now.
Okay. There she is.
Oh, okay, great.
Hi. Okay, so wait, are there specific questions you want me to answer?
I just recapped it.
I'm just so disappointed in how the one time the EPA finds a backbone, it's against the community on behalf of the Navy, and for all the other times in which the Navy has shirked their responsibilities, has not shown up, has not followed through, even from the 2014 leak, and all the reports that they've done and didn't follow through and didn't get things, it's just very, very disappointing that the EPA lets them slide all the time, give them extra time, allow them to do whatever, and then for us, for the public, it's got to be perfect to the T every time. It's just like Camille said, it's just re-traumatizing. So, and I feel bad because I feel like having gone through this more than one time, and I feel like I told people that the CRI can make a difference. It's the one thing that is different from how they handled the AOC after the 2014 leak, right? This idea that we're going to have direct communication between people who are concerned and care about this and the Navy who made all of these bad decisions and put us at risk. And now we have the EPA basically running interference on behalf of the Navy, basically acting like fascists, cutting off those people who are, effective critics of their operation. So yeah, I am extremely disappointed, and I feel bad that I, talked people into doing this, and maybe it's not actually going to make a difference after all. The machine is always going to be the machine. The empire is always going to empire, and they really don't care about us, and it doesn't really, yeah, so what are we left to do? It's really, really frustrating. So I will sit with that for a while, and we will see whatever the next thing is we're doing.
Gotta be you.
Gotta be me?
Gotta be you.
No, that is a fallacy. It is not gotta be me. It is not about me, right? This is about an all of us kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
We are talking about our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids, right? They're gonna set up this system now. They say, oh, don't worry, we'll close it in place, it'll be fine for hundreds of years. And don't worry, we're gonna install this filtration system and it'll be good for 50 years, probably double that, right? Well, that's not enough. That's not enough, Like, we are talking about how are we going to make sure that all of us who know about this now are going to be able to communicate that information to these people 100 years from now, when we can't even communicate it to the new families who are moving in? Like, it's just crazy. I think what really needs to happen, instead of the military spending $500 million on a system that's only going to filter water for 50 years, maybe they downsize the number of people who are living here so that they don't have to use as much water. Maybe we try to focus our economy away from war making and towards things that are actually healing and taking care of us, instead of trying to kill people. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We can't be surprised that we put, an institution that specializes in killing people in charge of, the one thing that we all need to survive, which is clean water. I guess it's not the one thing. It's one of the few things that we all need to survive. Anyway, I can't believe how disappointed I am. And
keep being truthful and being, honest.
Keep on keeping on, right?
Yeah.
Don't let the bastards keep you down.
Push back.
That's right, push back. Thank you very much. You're awesome, Oren. Thank you for always being there for us. All right. Yeah. Kala hoi hoi ea!